Hey, this is Midnight Mysteries, and I'm really glad you're here tonight. If your eyes feel heavy already, that's okay. Let them rest, just for a while. You don't need to think, or move, or even stay awake. All you have to do is listen, and let the stories carry you. They're slow, quiet stories, made for people who are tired, or lonely, or just need to drift for a bit. If you find yourself yawning, let it happen. Your body knows it's safe now. And if this brings you peace, maybe like or subscribe so you can find your way back here when night returns. Let's begin. The first story tonight is called The Roots Beneath the Hour. The woman walks alone down the gravel road, her boots crunching softly in the dark. Ahead is the mansion where she was hired to tend the garden. The place is much larger than she expected and set deep in the woods. The windows are dimly lit but feel wrong somehow. Not cold, just out of place, like they are not all showing the same moment. She stands still a while at the gate, unsure if she is early or late, but the night around her feels like it never moves. Her name is Lena, and she touches the cold iron of the gate. It doesn't swing open, it just seems to dissolve into the shadows for a moment, letting her pass through. The air inside the grounds is different, still and heavy, smelling of damp earth and flowers that have no right to be blooming in this cold. The gravel of the driveway gives way to a path of smooth, dark stones that make no sound under her feet. She reaches the enormous front door. Its wood is dark and carved with vines and leaves that seem to shift in the dim light from the porch lamp. She raises a hand to knock but hesitates. The silence is so deep that any sound feels like a violation. Before her knuckles can touch the wood, the door swings inward without a sound, opening into a vast, dimly lit foyer. A woman stands there. She is old, dressed in a simple black dress. Her face is a mask of polite indifference. "You are expected," she says. Her voice is quiet, like rustling leaves. She doesn't introduce herself. She just turns and leads Lena deeper into the house. Her footsteps are completely silent on the polished marble floor. The inside of the mansion is a confusing maze of hallways and grand, empty rooms. Dust motes dance in the thin beams of moonlight cutting through the tall windows. The air is cold, but it's a dry, ancient cold, not the damp chill of outside. Lena feels a constant, low hum in the walls, a vibration so faint she wonders if it's just in her own head. The old woman shows her to a small, simple room at the back of the house. It has a narrow bed, a small wooden wardrobe, and a single window that looks out onto the dark shape of the garden. "Your work begins at dawn," the woman says, then she turns and leaves, closing the door softly behind her. Lena is left alone in the heavy, humming silence. She sits on the edge of the bed. The mattress is firm and cold. She looks at the clock on the small bedside table. It's a beautiful, old thing made of dark wood and brass, but its hands are not moving. They are frozen at 12:03. She taps the glass face, but nothing happens. It's just another silent, still object in a silent, still house. She doesn't unpack. She just lies down on top of the covers, still in her coat. The exhaustion of her long journey settles over her, but sleep feels impossible. The silence is too loud. The feeling of being watched is too strong. It's not coming from the window. It's coming from the house itself, from the walls, the floor, the very air she breathes. Sleep must have taken her, because she wakes with a start. The room is pitch black. The moon must have gone behind the clouds. She listens, her heart pounding. She hears a sound from outside her window, a soft, rhythmic scraping, like a trowel digging in the earth. But it's the middle of the night. Who would be in the garden? She gets up and goes to the window. Her breath fogs the cold glass. She wipes it away and peers out into the darkness. The garden is a sea of shadows, but she can see a figure moving out there, a woman, kneeling by the rose bushes near the old stone wall. The figure is too far away to see clearly, but she is working with a quiet, focused intensity. Lena watches for a long time, a cold knot of dread tightening in her stomach. The scraping sound is methodical, relentless. It's the sound of work that will never be finished. She feels a strange sense of recognition, a feeling that she has seen this scene before, in a dream or a half-forgotten memory. She finally backs away from the window, her skin crawling. She forces herself to get back into bed, pulling the thin blanket up to her chin. She tells herself it's just another staff member, someone with strange hours, but she can't shake the feeling of deep wrongness. The clock on the table still reads 12:03. Time in this house feels broken, fractured, a collection of moments that don't connect. The sun, when it finally rises, is a weak, pale light that does little to warm the cold air. Lena dresses and goes outside. The garden is larger than she imagined, a sprawling, overgrown landscape of tangled vines, ancient trees, and flower beds choked with weeds. It is a place of immense, forgotten beauty, a garden that has been waiting for a long time. She finds the tool shed, its door hanging open on a single rusted hinge. Inside, the tools are old but well made, their wooden handles worn smooth by years of use. She picks up a pair of shears. The metal is cold and heavy in her hand. She feels a sense of purpose settle over her. This is why she is here, to bring order to this chaos. She works all day, losing herself in the rhythm of the task. She weeds the flower beds, trims the overgrown hedges, and clears the tangled ivy from the stone walls. The work is hard, but satisfying. She feels like she is slowly uncovering the garden's true self, its hidden structure, its forgotten soul. She sees no one all day, not the old woman, not the family who supposedly owns this place. The mansion remains silent, its windows like dark, empty eyes watching her work. She eats the simple lunch she packed for herself, sitting on a cold stone bench. The silence is her only companion. As dusk begins to fall, she gathers her tools to put them away. She arranges them neatly on the hooks inside the shed, the shears, the trowel, the rake, each in its proper place. She closes the door as best she can and walks back to her room. Her muscles ache with a good, honest tiredness. That night, she sleeps, a deep, dreamless sleep, but she wakes just before dawn to the sound of scraping again. She goes to the window, expecting to see the strange woman, but the garden is empty. The first light of morning is touching the tops of the trees, a cold, grey light. She gets dressed and goes to the tool shed, her mind still fuzzy with sleep. She opens the door and freezes. The tools are not where she left them. They are scattered on the floor, covered in fresh, dark soil. The shears are lying by the door, their blades open, as if dropped in a hurry. Someone was using them last night. She stands there for a long time, the cold morning air raising goosebumps on her arms. It could have been the other gardener, the woman she saw, but why would she leave the tools in such a mess? It feels like a violation, a deliberate act of chaos in the small pocket of order she had tried to create. She cleans the tools and puts them away again, more carefully this time. She tells herself not to be foolish. There is a simple explanation, but she can't shake the feeling that the garden, or the house, is playing a game with her, testing her. She spends the day working, but the feeling of being watched is stronger now, more personal. That afternoon, she meets one of the residents for the first time, a young man. He appears suddenly at her side while she is pruning the roses. He moves with the same unsettling silence as the old woman. "They look beautiful," he says. His voice is soft and kind. He smiles at her, but his eyes are old, filled with a sadness that doesn't match his young face. He introduces himself as Arthur. He says his family appreciates her hard work. He speaks to her for a few minutes about the flowers. His knowledge is impressive. He knows the Latin names for every rose. He tells her about a rare black orchid that used to grow in the greenhouse, but it died many years ago. He seems normal, friendly, but then he says something strange. "You have her hands," he says, looking at her dirt-stained fingers, the same long fingers, the same way of holding the shears. Lena asks who he means, but he just shakes his head, his smile fading. "It was a long time ago," he says, and then he walks away, disappearing back into the silent house. Lena stares after him, his words echoing in her mind. She looks down at her hands. They're just her hands, ordinary hands, but now they feel alien to her, borrowed. She tries to dismiss it, but the comment sticks with her. Another piece of the puzzle that doesn't fit, another thread in the web of strangeness that covers this place. That night, the clock in her room has changed. It now reads 6:45. She is sure it was 12:03 before. She picks it up and examines it. There is no place for a battery, no key to wind it. It is a sealed object, and yet, it is working. The second hand is sweeping in a smooth, silent circle. She watches it for a full minute, mesmerized by its impossible movement. She hears the voice for the first time that night. It's a whisper, coming from just outside her window. "Lena," it says, a single, soft word, her own name. She freezes, her blood turning to ice. It is a woman's voice, faint and distant, but unmistakable. She forces herself to move, to go to the window. She expects to see the strange gardener, or the old woman, but what she sees stops her heart. She sees herself, standing in the garden, bathed in moonlight. She is wearing a simple white dress she has never seen before. Her hair is longer, and she is holding a single, perfect white rose. The other Lena turns her head and looks directly at the window, directly at her. She doesn't smile. Her expression is blank, empty, a mask of serene sadness. Then she turns and walks away, fading into the shadows of the garden like a ghost. Lena stands at the window, her hand pressed to her mouth, her mind screaming. She doesn't sleep. She sits in a chair facing the door, her coat pulled tightly around her. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside, makes her jump. The image of her other self is burned into her mind. It was not a reflection, it was not a dream, it was real. Another version of her exists in this place. The next day, she tries to find the old woman, the housekeeper. She needs answers. She needs to know she is not going mad. She wanders the silent, empty hallways of the mansion, calling out, but no one answers. The house is a tomb, a museum of empty rooms and dusty furniture. She finally finds someone in the vast, cold kitchen, a young woman, maybe a few years younger than herself. She is polishing a silver tray with a soft cloth. Her movements are slow and methodical. She introduces herself as Clara, a maid. She has a kind, tired face, and she looks at Lena with a sad, knowing pity. Lena tells her what she saw, the words tumbling out in a frantic, desperate rush. She expects Clara to look at her like she is crazy, to dismiss her story, but she doesn't. She just nods slowly, her expression unchanging. "Yes," she says softly, "that happens here." Clara explains, her voice a low, hushed whisper, as if she is afraid of being overheard by the house itself. She says the mansion doesn't follow normal time. It is a place of echoes, of moments that get stuck and replay themselves, like a skipping record. She says everyone who stays here for too long gets caught in the loops. "You saw a memory," Clara says, "or maybe a future. It's hard to tell the difference here. The house remembers everyone, everything that has ever happened within its walls, and sometimes it shows you. She looks at Lena, her eyes full of a deep, weary resignation. You should leave, if you still can. The maid's words are a confirmation of her deepest fears, but also a strange kind of relief. She is not mad. The strangeness is real. It has a name, a reason, but the relief is short-lived, replaced by a new, more urgent terror. What did Clara mean, if you still can? Lena decides to leave. Right then, she doesn't care about the job, the money. She just needs to get away from this place. She thanks Clara, who just gives her another sad, pitying look. Lena goes to her room, grabs her small bag, and walks out of the mansion, not looking back. She walks down the long, silent driveway, her heart pounding with a desperate hope. She reaches the iron gate. It is closed, solid. She pushes on it, but it doesn't move. It is no longer a shadow. It is a wall, a barrier. She is trapped. She turns and looks back at the mansion. It seems to loom over her, a silent, brooding predator. She feels a wave of pure, helpless panic. She starts to run, not back towards the house, but along the fence line, looking for a break, a way out. But the iron fence seems to stretch on forever in both directions. She runs until her lungs burn and her legs ache, but the fence is unbroken. She finally collapses, sobbing, at the foot of a huge, ancient oak tree. She is a prisoner. The mansion has her, and it is not going to let her go. She spends the rest of the day in a daze, wandering the grounds. She feels a profound sense of despair, a hopelessness that drains all the strength from her limbs. The garden, which had seemed so beautiful before, now feels like a cage, a beautiful, elaborate prison. That evening, she sees Arthur again. He finds her sitting by a stagnant, ornamental pond. He is holding a small, leather-bound book. He looks different today, younger, his face unlined by sadness. His eyes are bright and curious. You look lost, he says, his voice cheerful. He doesn't seem to remember their previous conversation. He introduces himself as if they have never met. He asks her name, and when she tells him, he smiles. Lena, he says, a lovely name for a gardener. He acts as if this is her first day, as if the past few days have been erased. Lena just stares at him, her mind struggling to keep up. This is what Clara meant. The house shows you different versions, different moments. This is a younger Arthur, an echo from a happier time, before the sadness took root in his eyes. He hands her the book. I thought you might like this, he says. It belonged to the last gardener. Her name was Elspeth. She loved this place very much. He smiles at her again, a bright, innocent smile. Then he turns and heads back to the house, whistling a cheerful tune. Lena opens the book. It's a journal, filled with notes on the garden, sketches of plants, and pressed flowers. The handwriting is elegant and feminine, but what makes her blood run cold is the small, faded photograph tucked into the front cover. It's a picture of a woman, standing in the garden, smiling. Her name, Elspeth, is written on the back. The woman is not her, but the resemblance is uncanny. She has the same dark hair, the same shape of her face, the same long fingers. She is wearing a simple work dress and holding a pair of shears. It is the woman from Arthur's description, the woman with her hands. She feels a new, creeping dread, a fear that is deeper and more personal than just being trapped. She is not just a prisoner in this house. She is a replacement, a stand-in for a woman who looks just like her, a woman who loved this garden, perhaps a little too much. Her nights become a torment of waking dreams. She hears voices from empty rooms, the sound of a piano playing a sad, beautiful melody, the laughter of children who are not there. The house is alive with its own memories, and it is slowly pulling her into them. She stops trying to keep track of the days. It's pointless. Time is a tangled knot she can't unravel. Sometimes she wakes up and her tools are clean and neatly arranged. Other times they are dirty and scattered, as if she has lived through a day she can't remember. She sees the other residents more often, but they are never the same. She sees the old housekeeper as a young, stern woman. She sees Arthur as a small boy, crying because he has scraped his knee. She sees a woman who must be his mother, sometimes vibrant and laughing, other times pale and sick, her face bruised. Clara is her only constant, her only anchor, but even she seems to change. Some days she is hopeful, talking of escape. Other days she is a hollow shell, her eyes empty, resigned to her fate. The house takes what it needs. She tells Lena one day, it needs a gardener. Lena's own reflection becomes a stranger. Her face seems thinner, paler. Her eyes have a haunted, distant look. Her hands, when she looks at them, seem longer, more elegant, more like the hands in the photograph. She is starting to look like Elspeth. Her own memories begin to fade. She struggles to remember her life before the mansion, the face of her mother, the name of the town she grew up in. They are like old, faded photographs, losing their color, their detail. They are being replaced by new memories, memories of this garden, this house. She finds a hidden door one afternoon, behind a wall of overgrown ivy at the back of the garden. It's a small, iron door, rusted shut. She spends hours working at it, her hands raw and bleeding, until it finally groans open, revealing a dark, narrow passage. It leads to a greenhouse, but not one she has seen before. It is made of dark, smoky glass, and the air inside is warm and still. It is filled with the most beautiful, exotic plants she has ever seen, flowers of impossible colors, ferns with leaves like spun glass. Each plant is in its own ornate pot, and at the base of each pot is a small, brass plaque. She kneels down to read one. It says, Arthur, 1988. She moves to the next. Clara, 2011. The next. Thomas, 1952. It is a graveyard, a museum of souls. Each plant is a person, preserved in time. She walks through the silent, beautiful room, reading the names, a history of the mansion's prisoners. She feels a profound, chilling understanding. This is the heart of the house, the source of its power, the place where it keeps its collection. Then she sees it, in a small, empty corner of the greenhouse. There is a single, empty pot. It is clean and new, waiting. At its base is a small, brass plaque. It is blank, but she doesn't need to read it. She knows whose name will be written there. She knows who it is for. She backs out of the greenhouse, her heart a cold, dead weight in her chest. The house is not just trapping her, it is consuming her. It is waiting for her to fully become the gardener, to fully become Elspeth, and then it will add her to its collection, another beautiful, silent plant in its timeless garden. She doesn't know how much time passes after that. Days, weeks, years, it doesn't matter. She works in the garden. Her movements are fluid, graceful. She knows every plant, every stone, every secret. She hums a soft, cheerful tune as she works, a tune she doesn't remember learning. One evening, as dusk settles, she is standing by the gate, trimming the roses. She hears the soft crunch of boots on the gravel road outside. A young woman is standing there, looking at the mansion with a mixture of awe and apprehension. She looks tired, lost, hopeful. Lena watches her, a faint, sad smile on her lips. The gate seems to dissolve into the shadows, letting the new girl in. She walks up the path, her eyes wide. I'm here for the gardener position, she says, her voice a little shaky. Lena turns to her. Her face is serene, her eyes are calm. but deep within them, there is a flicker of someone else, a flicker of a memory of a life before this one. "You are expected," Lena says, and her voice is not her own. It is quiet, like rustling leaves. It is the voice of the house, of the garden, of all the gardeners who came before. The mansion is silent, the garden is still, the new girl follows the old one into the house, and the sound of their footsteps echoes for a moment before being swallowed by the profound, unending silence, a silence that holds the past, the present, and the future in its cold, patient embrace. The next story is called "The Sea Has No Memory." The wind is stronger near the cliff and the cold cuts sharper too. The watchman squints as he climbs the narrow path toward the old lighthouse, one hand tight on his coat, the other holding the lamp. The sea below is loud, but it's not the waves that bother him, it's the knocks at the tower he hears every night at midnight. No footprints in the frost, no boats in sight, and now the air feels still, like the night is holding its breath. His name is Silas and he has been here for 2 months. He reaches the heavy iron door at the base of the tower. Its surface is slick with sea spray and cold enough to steal the warmth from his glove. He pauses before turning the key, listening, but there is only the distant churn of the water and the low moan of the wind around the high lantern. The night feels empty, but he knows it isn't. The lock grinds open with a heavy sound. The door swings inward on protesting hinges, revealing a circle of profound darkness. The air that spills out is stale and cold, smelling of damp stone, oil, and something else, something like old, forgotten memories. He steps inside, the darkness swallowing him whole until he closes the door, shutting out the world. The click of the latch is loud in the sudden silence. He places his lamp on a small wooden crate. Its flame flickers, casting long, dancing shadows up the curved walls. The ground floor is just a storage space, cluttered with ropes and barrels and the scent of decay. A set of iron spiral stairs disappears up into the gloom above, waiting for him. He checks the old clock on the wall. Its face is yellowed and cracked. The hands read 10 minutes to midnight. He feels the familiar tension begin to build in his shoulders. It starts at the same time every night, a slow tightening, a deep-seated dread that has become part of his routine here, as predictable as the tide. He tells himself it's just a house settling, a piece of driftwood tossed by a freak wave against the stone. He has tried every rational explanation, but his heart knows better. The sound is too deliberate, too clean. It is a knock made by a hand, a summons from something that has no right to be there, a visitor that leaves no trace. Last week he sprinkled a fine layer of sand in a perfect half-circle before the door. He thought if an animal was to blame, it would leave a track, a sign. In the morning, the sand was untouched, a smooth, pale crescent on the dark ground, but he had heard the knocks again, clear as day, right through the solid iron. He walks to the foot of the stairs and looks up. The tower feels impossibly tall from down here, a hollow throat leading into blackness. Some nights he feels like he is at the bottom of a well, staring up at a sky he can't reach. The feeling of being watched is strongest here, at the base, near the door. He thinks of Thomas, the man who held this post before him, the man who left so suddenly. The station chief in the nearest town, a 2-hour drive away, said Thomas was unreliable, prone to drink and stories, but Silas didn't believe it, not after what he found, not after finding the logbook. He discovered it by accident. A floorboard near the stove was loose. He'd pried it up and there it was, a worn leather-bound book. Its first half was filled with meticulous notes on weather patterns, fuel consumption, and lamp maintenance. The writing was neat and steady, the work of a careful man. But the last dozen pages were different. The handwriting became a frantic scrawl, the neat columns were gone, replaced by strange tallies and numbers, and then, on the very last page, a single sentence written with a shaking hand. It's not trying to get in, it wants to be heard. The clock on the wall begins to chime, a slow, metallic count to 12. Silas freezes, his hand gripping the cold iron of the stair railing. He holds his breath, listening past the sound of his own blood pounding in his ears. The tower falls silent, waiting. The whole world seems to be waiting. Knock, knock, knock. A pause, long enough to make him think it's over. Then, knock, knock, knock. The sound is not muffled or distant. It is right there, on the other side of the door. A solid, insistent rapping on the iron. It's a sound that should have an echo in the stone room. But it doesn't. It's flat and dead. His heart thuds against his ribs. A wild, trapped bird. It's the same every night. The same pattern. The same impossible sound. A question asked in the dark that he has no answer for. He feels a cold sweat on his brow. The fear is a physical thing. A pressure in the air. A weight on his chest. He forces his legs to move, to begin his climb. Routine is the only thing that keeps the fear at bay. He must check the lamp. He must ensure the light is turning. That is his job, his purpose here. He takes the first step. His boot clangs on the iron, the sound echoing upwards into the darkness he must now enter. The stairs spiral tightly. Each level of the tower is a small, circular room, a carbon copy of the one below, but with a different purpose. He passes the first landing, the main storeroom, its door slightly ajar, a sliver of deeper blackness in the gloom. He keeps climbing, his lamp pushing the shadows ahead of him. He reaches the second level, the small kitchen and living space, a table, 2 chairs, a small stove. Everything is tidy, obsessively so. He keeps it that way because it's the only thing he can control in this place. But tonight it feels different. It feels like an empty stage, like the actors have just left. The air is disturbed. He can feel it, a subtle shift, as if someone large walked through the room just moments ago, displacing the stillness. He sees a cup on the table. He doesn't remember leaving it there. It's a small thing, a tiny detail, but it makes the hairs on his arms stand up. He continues his climb, his mind racing. He thinks about the logbook again, about Thomas's frantic notes. He had dismissed them as madness at first, the ramblings of a lonely man, but now, living in the same space, hearing the same sounds, he is not so sure. Madness felt closer than he liked to admit. The wind is a physical presence at this height. It shrieks and moans, pressing against the thick, curved glass of the windows. It sounds like a chorus of lost voices, a constant lament from the sea. He tries to focus on that sound, a natural sound, a real sound, but the memory of the knocking is louder. He reaches the third level, the small bedroom. A simple cot is pressed against the wall, a single blanket folded neatly on top. A small shelf on the wall holds a few worn paperback books. It is a monk's cell, a place of quiet contemplation, but there is no peace here, not for him. He notices something on the floor, near the foot of the cot, a small brass button. It is old and green with tarnish, the kind from a heavy sailor's coat. He is sure it wasn't there this morning. He picks it up. It's cold and heavy in his palm, another piece of a puzzle he doesn't understand. He pockets the button and keeps going, up the final, steepest flight of stairs. This leads to the lantern room, the heart of the lighthouse, the reason for its existence. The air grows warmer here, a dry heat from the great lamp. The smell of oil is stronger. He emerges into the glass-walled room at the very top of the tower. The giant Fresnel lens assembly sits in the center, a beautiful, intricate beehive of glass and brass. It rotates with a soft, almost silent whirring, its powerful beam of light sweeping in a slow, steady circle out over the black ocean. For a moment, he is calmed by it, the reliability of the machine, the purpose of the light. It is a beacon against the darkness, a promise of safety. It cuts through the formless night, giving it shape and distance. But then his eyes fall on the wall, and the fear returns. In his logbook, Thomas had drawn a crude map of the lantern room. On it, he had marked a small X on the western wall, a spot where the iron plates met in a seam. Silas walks over to it, his lamp casting a small, trembling circle of light on the dark metal. He runs his fingers over the cold plates, feeling for an imperfection, a sign. At first he finds nothing. The surface is smooth and solid. He is about to give up, to dismiss it as another dead end, when his nail catches on something, a tiny lip of metal, almost invisible in the dim light. He works at it with his fingertips, his hands clumsy with cold and anticipation. The plate groans in protest, then gives way. It's a small maintenance hatch, no bigger than a book, and it swings open to reveal a dark, hollow space within the wall, a secret compartment. His heart is pounding now. He reaches inside, his fingers brushing against something cold and metallic, and something else, brittle and dry like old paper. He pulls the items out into the light. His hands are shaking so much he almost drops them. It is a small, ornate brass key and a folded, yellowed letter. The letter is addressed to the next man. Silas unfolds it carefully. The paper is fragile. The ink is faded. It is from Thomas. The handwriting is the same neat script from the first half of the logbook, written before the fear took hold, before the frantic scrawling began. If you are reading this, it begins. Then you have heard the knocking. Do not be afraid. It is not a monster. It is a man, my brother. His name was Daniel. Silas has to read the line twice, his mind struggling to comprehend it. A man, a ghost. The letter explains, Daniel was a sailor on the Albatross, a cargo ship that went down in a terrible storm 30 years ago. Right off this point, they never found the wreck. They never found any of the crew. Daniel was lost, swallowed by the sea, leaving Thomas with a grief that never faded. He is not malicious, Thomas wrote. He is just lost, and he is trying to communicate. The knocks are a code, the old tapping code we used as boys. He is telling me something. I know he is, but I can't decipher it. The pattern is always the same, but the meaning escapes me. Silas stares at the words. The mystery of the knocks is suddenly replaced by a profound and heavy sadness. It is not a haunting, it is a vigil, a lonely spirit calling out from a watery grave, a brother reaching for a brother across the veil of death, a message that was never understood. The letter continues. The key opens my old seed chest in the main storeroom. Inside you will find my charts and my notes, everything I have learned. Perhaps you will have better luck than I. Perhaps you can give him the peace he seeks. Perhaps you can finally hear what he is trying to say. Silas carefully refolds the letter and places it in his pocket along with the key. He closes the small hatch in the wall, the secret once again hidden. He looks out at the sweeping beam of light. It feels different now, not just a warning for ships, but a beacon for a single, lost soul. He makes his way back down the long, winding stairs. The tower feels different. The oppressive fear is gone, replaced by a sense of purpose, a heavy responsibility. The knocking has stopped, as it always does, leaving behind a silence that now feels full of unanswered words. He reaches the first floor landing and goes to the storeroom door. He pushes it open. The air inside is thick with the smell of dust and brine and time. His lamplight cuts through the gloom, illuminating piles of old rope, stacked crates, and canvas sails stiff with age. In the far corner, Half buried under a rotting fishing net is a small wooden chest. It is bound with black iron straps and secured with a heavy brass lock. It looks ancient, like something that could have washed ashore from a shipwreck itself. Silas kneels before it. The key feels small in his hand, but it slides into the lock perfectly. He turns it. The mechanism resists for a moment, then gives way with a loud, grating click that echoes in the small, cluttered room. He takes a deep breath and lifts the heavy lid. The inside of the chest is lined with faded blue velvet. It is filled with nautical charts, rolled and tied with string, several old, leather-bound books on naval history and signal codes, and another, smaller journal, this one bound in simple, dark cloth, Thomas's private research. He carries the chest and his lamp up to the kitchen, a more comfortable place to work. He sets the chest on the table and sits down. The weight of the task ahead settles on him. He is no longer just a watchman. He is an interpreter for the dead, a link in a chain of grief. He spends the next several hours poring over the contents of the chest. He unrolls the charts. They are detailed maps of the coastline, covered in Thomas's neat annotations. He has marked currents, known reefs, and the projected path of the albatross during the storm. He opens the smaller journal. This is where the real story is. Thomas documented every night of knocking, the time, the intensity, the weather. He filled pages with attempts to translate the 6 knocks using various codes, but none of them made sense. The results were just gibberish. The journal entries become more desperate over time. Thomas writes of his frustration, his certainty that he is close to an answer. He also writes about other things, small, strange occurrences in the tower, the same things Silas has experienced, a feeling of being watched, objects moved. He writes about a faint whispering sound he sometimes hears on the wind, a voice lost in the howl of the storm. He writes about a recurring dream of a man with his brother's face, standing on the shore, pointing out to a specific spot in the water, a spot just beyond the northern reef. Silas feels a chill run down his spine. He finds the chart that shows the northern reef, and there, in a spot marked with a small, precise X, are a series of numbers, coordinates. Thomas had written a single word next to them, here. The last entry in the journal is dated 2 months ago, just before Silas took the job. Thomas's handwriting is rushed but clear, filled with a sudden, triumphant energy. It's not a message, he wrote, it's a location. The knocks are not a code, they are a compass bearing. He's not talking to me, he's guiding me. Silas now understands everything. Thomas wasn't trying to talk back. He was trying to find his brother's final resting place. The coordinates on the chart were the answer he had been searching for, the end of his long, painful quest. A final, hastily scrawled note is tucked into the back of the journal. I've taken the boat, it says. The sea is calm tonight. I have to go to him. I have to bring him home. And that was it. Thomas had gone out to that spot. A final, desperate act of love and grief. He never came back. There was no record of his return, no boat found washed ashore. He had gone to join his brother, lost to the same sea, in the same dark water. The tragedy had repeated itself, a sad, lonely echo across 30 years. Silas closes the journal. The mystery is solved. He knows the source of the knocks and the fate of his predecessor. But the knowledge brings no relief, only a profound and heavy sorrow. The knocking will continue, he knows it will. Daniel doesn't know that Thomas is gone. He is still calling, still waiting. He sits in the quiet kitchen of the lighthouse, the lamp burning low. The first hints of dawn are beginning to grey the eastern sky. He feels an immense pity for the 2 brothers, trapped in their cycle of loss, one calling from the depths, the other lost in the search. What is his role in this story now? Should he leave, like Thomas did, and let the next man inherit the mystery, or should he stay, a silent witness to a ghost's eternal vigil? He doesn't know. He feels adrift, as lost as the souls he has just learned about. The next night comes too quickly. The day was a blur of grey sea and grey sky. Silas did his duties mechanically, cleaning the lens, checking the fuel, but his mind was elsewhere, out on the water, in the deep, cold darkness with the wreck of the Albatross. As evening fell, the tower began to feel heavy again, but the feeling was different. The fear was gone, replaced by a deep, resonant sadness. It felt like the whole structure was grieving, weeping cold condensation on the inside of the windows. He decided he could not simply do nothing. He could not let the sad call go unanswered night after night. It felt cruel, a torment he was now complicit in. He had to do something. It was a foolish, sentimental idea, born of a long, lonely day, but it felt right. It felt necessary. He went down to the storeroom and rummaged through the old crates until he found what he was looking for, a small, heavy brass bell, the kind used on a ship's bridge. It was tarnished and green, but when he wiped it clean, it shone with a soft, golden light. He carried it to the ground floor and waited. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence, each tick a step closer to midnight. He stood before the iron door, the bell in his hand. His heart was calm, his purpose clear. The clock chimed 12, the sound echoing in the stone chamber. Silas held his breath, and then the knocks came, right on cue. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, patient raps. The sound was not frightening tonight. It was just lonely, a question hanging in the dark. Before the second set of knocks could begin, Silas raised the bell. He took a deep breath, his knuckles white around the handle. He was not a sailor, he was just a watchman, but he knew some of the old ways. He had read them in one of Thomas's books. He swung the bell, and a single, clear note rang out, cutting through the silence of the tower. It was a pure, resonant sound that seemed to hang in the air for a long time. He waited a moment, then he rang it again, a second, final chime. 2 bells, the signal for the end of a watch, the signal for a job well done, a call to rest. It was the only answer he could think of, the only message of peace he could offer to a soul who had stood his post for 30 long years. He stood perfectly still, listening, his ears straining in the sudden, absolute silence. He waited for the second set of knocks, but they never came. He waited for 5 minutes, then 10. The silence held, deep and unbroken. It was a new kind of silence, not the tense, waiting silence of before, but a calm, peaceful emptiness. The pressure in the air was gone. The feeling of being watched had vanished. The tower was still, truly still, for the first time since he had arrived. Slowly, he walked to the door and unlatched it. He pulled the heavy iron door open and stepped outside into the night. The air was cold and clean. The sky was a vast expanse of brilliant, glittering stars. The sea was calm, a sheet of dark, moving glass. He looked out towards the northern reef, to the spot on the chart where a lost ship lay in the depths. He felt a sense of release, of a duty finally discharged, a message finally delivered. He had answered the call, he had ended the watch. He went back inside, leaving the door open for a while to let the fresh night air cleanse the stale atmosphere of the tower. The building felt lighter, the oppressive weight lifted. It was no longer a tomb or a stage for a tragedy, it was just a lighthouse again. He knew he would stay. This was his place now. He had found a strange, quiet purpose here, in the solitude and the silence. He was the keeper of the light, and now, he was the keeper of a secret, the guardian of a quiet, sad story. But questions remained, hanging in the back of his mind like ghosts themselves. What had truly happened to Thomas? Was his spirit out there too, still searching for the brother who was now at peace? Had he found his own rest, or was he just another voice lost in the wind? And was the peace in the tower permanent, or was it just a temporary reprieve? If a great storm came, a storm like the one that took the albatross, would the knocking return? Would the grieving spirit be woken from its slumber? Would the vigil begin anew? He knew he would never have the answers, and he found he was okay with that. Some things were not meant to be understood. Some mysteries belong to the sea and the night. It was enough to have listened. It was enough to have answered. He closed the door and began his slow climb up the spiral stairs, his footsteps echoing softly in the peaceful silence. He reached the lantern room and stood for a long time, watching the steady, silent sweep of the light across the dark water, a tireless, faithful guardian. The tower was quiet, the night was calm, and Silas, the watchman, felt a strange sense of peace. He was alone, but he was not lonely. He was a part of the tower's story now, a quiet witness to its long, and finally silent, midnight. And finally the last story. Something waits at midnight. The static is louder tonight, and the man in the ranger outpost doesn't know why. It's past midnight and the radio should be quiet except for weather loops, but something new keeps cutting in. It's faint, buried under the crackle, but every once in a while he hears a word or two that doesn't belong there. Not official reports, not storm warnings, just quiet things like help or cold or down here, and every time he hears them the signal seems a little closer. His name is Alistair, and the outpost is his world, a small square of light and warmth carved out of 100 miles of dark, silent forest. He leans closer to the radio, his ear pressed against the speaker's grill. The metal is cold against his skin and smells of dust and old electricity. He turns the dial with a slow, careful hand, trying to isolate the strange signal, trying to give it a name. The static hisses and pops like a dying fire. For a moment the voice clears, a woman's voice. He thinks, thin and breathless, "Can't move," it says, before being swallowed again by the noise. Alistair sits back in his creaking wooden chair, his heart beating a slow, heavy rhythm against his ribs. This is the third night it's happened, and the words are getting longer. He picks up the logbook, its pages filled with his neat, blocky handwriting. He opens to a fresh page, notes the date and the time, 12:17 a.m. Then he writes, faint transmission on shortwave, female voice, words unclear but distressed. He pauses, then adds, signal strength has increased slightly since yesterday. He looks at the large map tacked to the wall, a detailed topography of the vast national park. It's a spiderweb of contour lines, green for forests, blue for rivers. He has walked most of these trails. He knows the shape of the land like the back of his own hand, but the map offers no answers. There are no registered hikers in this sector, no flight plans overdue. The outpost is a simple place, one room divided by function. The desk with its radio and maps is his office. A small iron stove in the corner is his hearth, and a narrow cot against the far wall is his bedroom. The windows are dark mirrors reflecting his own tired face and the soft glow of his desk lamp. Beyond them, the night is a solid wall of black. He gets up and walks to the stove, the floorboards groaning with each step. He adds another log to the embers. The wood catches with a soft whoosh, sending a shower of orange sparks up the flue. The warmth feels good, a small defense against the deep, persistent cold that seems to seep in through the very walls of the cabin. He makes himself a cup of coffee, the water boiled on the stovetop. The process is a familiar ritual, a small piece of normal in a night that feels anything but. He sips the hot, bitter liquid, his eyes fixed on the silent radio, waiting. It feels like a predator, something that is hunting the quiet airwaves. The voice comes again, clearer this time, for a full 2 seconds. Water, so cold. The words are not shouted, they are whispered, a soft, intimate sound that makes the hairs on his arm stand up. It sounds like the person is right next to him, whispering in his ear. He feels a chill that has nothing to do with the night air. He spills a little coffee on the desk, the dark liquid pooling near the base of the radio. He wipes it up with his sleeve, his hand is shaking. He is not a man who scares easily. He has faced down bears and forest fires. He has spent weeks alone in the wilderness without another human soul for 100 miles. But this is different. This is a ghost in the machine. He puts the cup down and goes back to the radio. He switches to the long-range transmitter, the one that can reach the main ranger station in the town 60 miles away. He picks up the microphone. Its cord is coiled tightly like a black snake. He presses the button, but only a loud, angry buzz comes out. No signal. The line is dead. That's new. The long range has never failed before. He checks the connections, the power supply. Everything seems fine. The storm that passed through yesterday must have knocked down an antenna somewhere along the line. He is truly alone out here. No way to call out. No way to ask if anyone else can hear the voice. He feels a knot of unease tighten in his stomach. The isolation of the outpost, usually a comfort, now feels like a trap. He is the only one who can hear this, the only one who can do anything about it. The responsibility settles on his shoulders like a physical weight, heavy and cold. He goes back to the map, his eyes tracing the blue lines of the rivers. The woman said water, she said cold. The Blackwood River runs through the deepest part of the valley, a treacherous, rocky gorge where the water is ice cold even in summer. It's a dangerous place, a place where people get into trouble. But the voice also said, down here. That's the part that bothers him the most. It suggests a fall, a pit, a cave. There are a few old, abandoned mine shafts in the hills south of the river, forgotten relics of a gold rush that ended a century ago. They are marked on his map with small, black triangles, warnings to stay away. He pulls out a smaller, more detailed map of the southern sector from a drawer. He spreads it on the desk, its creases worn and soft from years of use. He finds the cluster of old mines. They are miles from any established trail, in a part of the park that is almost never visited, a perfect place to get lost. The radio crackles again. This time it's not the voice, it's a sound, a rhythmic tapping. Tap tap tap. Pause. Tap tap tap. It's slow and deliberate, like someone knocking on a door, or tapping a message in code. It repeats 3 times, then the radio falls silent again. Alistair writes it down in the logbook, rhythmic tapping, 3 by 3. He stares at the words. It feels like a signal, a deliberate attempt to communicate beyond just words. It feels like an answer to his thoughts, as if the sender knows he is listening, knows he is trying to understand. He feels a sudden, powerful urge to go outside, to stand in the darkness and just listen. He pulls on his heavy coat and his boots. The simple actions of getting dressed feel strange, like he is preparing for a journey he doesn't understand. He grabs his powerful flashlight from its hook by the door. He steps out onto the small wooden porch. The cold hits him instantly, a sharp, clean shock that takes his breath away. The air is perfectly still. The towering pines are black silhouettes against a sky full of cold, distant stars. The silence is immense, a deep, ringing quiet that seems to press in on him from all sides. He stands there for a long time, listening, but there is nothing, only the faint hum of the generator behind the outpost and the sound of his own breathing. The forest is asleep, or pretending to be. He feels like he is standing on the shore of a vast, dark ocean, and he is the only thing making a sound. He shines his flashlight beam into the trees. The light cuts a sharp, white tunnel through the darkness, illuminating the rough bark of the pines, the carpet of dead needles on the ground. Everything looks normal, exactly as it should, but the feeling of being watched is undeniable, a prickling sensation on the back of his neck. He walks to the edge of the clearing, his boots crunching softly on the frozen ground. He looks south, in the direction of the old mines. The land slopes down into a dark, unseen valley. He can't see anything, but he can feel it, a sense of wrongness emanating from that direction, a cold spot in the landscape. He goes back inside. The warmth of the cabin feels good, but it no longer feels safe. The outpost feels like a cage now, a small, fragile box in a very large, very dark room. He locks the door, a gesture he rarely makes, the heavy bolt sliding home with a loud, definitive click. He sits at his desk and stares at the radio. It remains silent for the rest of the night, but its silence is not reassuring. It feels like a coiled snake, waiting. He doesn't sleep, he just sits and watches the dark windows, waiting for the sun, convinced that with the light, the voice will go away. But when dawn comes, painting the sky in shades of grey and pale pink, the voice returns. It is fainter now, almost lost in the growing light of the day, but it's there, a single word whispered on the edge of the static, Alastair, his own name, spoken with a soft, sighing finality. He freezes, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. That is impossible. There is no way for anyone to know his name. It's not broadcast. It's not in any public record tied to this outpost. His blood runs cold. This is not a random distress call. This is personal. It is meant for him. The voice is gone as quickly as it came, leaving behind only the normal, steady hiss of the open channel. He replays the sound in his head. Was it real? Did he imagine it? A trick of the static and his tired mind. But he knows he heard it. He knows it was his name. All doubt, all rational explanation, vanishes. This is real, and it is something far stranger than a lost hiker. The puzzle has changed. It's no longer about finding a person. It's about understanding what is calling to him, and why it knows who he is. He makes a decision. He cannot stay here and wait. He has to go out there. He has to find the source of the signal. He has to confront this thing. Whatever it is, his fear is still there, a cold knot in his gut, but it is now mixed with a new feeling, a grim determination. He spends the next hour preparing. He packs a bag with emergency supplies, extra batteries for his flashlight, a first aid kit, rope, a flare gun. He also packs the small, portable signal tracker, a device he can use to home in on the radio transmission if it comes back. He straps a large hunting knife to his belt and slings a rifle over his shoulder. He is not a hunter, but the weight of the steel is comforting, a solid, real thing in a world that has suddenly become unreal. He is preparing for the worst, because he has no idea what to expect. He looks at the map one last time, memorizing the terrain between the outpost and the old mine shafts near the Blackwood River. It's a 10-mile hike through dense, unforgiving wilderness. It will take him most of the day to get there, and he will likely have to spend the night out in the open. Before he leaves, he writes a final entry in the logbook. He details everything: the voice, the words, the dead long-range radio, his name being spoken. He describes his plan to hike to the southern mines. He folds the page carefully and leaves the book open on his desk. If he doesn't come back, someone will eventually find it. Someone will know what happened. He steps out of the outpost and into the cold morning light. He doesn't lock the door this time. He leaves it slightly ajar, a silent invitation for whatever is out there to show itself. It is a foolish, brave gesture, a challenge to the whispering voice. He turns his back on the cabin and walks into the trees, the forest swallowing him in seconds. The first few hours of the hike are unnervingly normal. The forest is quiet, the air is crisp, the sun filters down through the high canopy of the pines, creating shifting patterns of light and shadow on the trail. He moves at a steady pace, his senses on high alert, listening, watching. He carries the portable tracker in his hand. Its needle is still. There is no signal. The voice is silent. He begins to wonder if he made a mistake, if he is chasing a phantom born of solitude and static, but the memory of his name on the radio is too vivid, too real, to dismiss. Around noon, he reaches the edge of the Blackwood River Gorge. He stands on the rocky outcrop, looking down. The river is a churning ribbon of white and gray far below, carving its way through the dark rock. The sound of the rushing water is a constant, low roar, a powerful, indifferent voice. The air is colder here, a damp chill rising from the gorge. He can see the place on the map where he needs to cross, a narrow, old rope bridge built by loggers half a century ago. It's not on any official park trail, and it is not maintained. It is a risk, but it will save him hours of hiking. He makes his way down the steep, treacherous path to the bridge. Loose rocks skitter out from under his boots, tumbling down into the gorge below. He holds onto tree roots and sturdy bushes to keep his balance. His focus is absolute. A single misstep here would be fatal. He reaches the bridge. It is as bad as he expected. The wooden slats are dark with rot. Some are missing, creating gaping holes that show the churning water far below. The thick ropes that serve as handrails are frayed and slick with green moss. The whole structure sways gently in the wind coming up the gorge. He tests it with his foot. The bridge groans, a low, mournful sound, but it seems to hold his weight. He takes a deep breath and starts across, one slow, careful step at a time. He keeps his eyes fixed on the other side, not daring to look down. The roar of the river fills his ears. He is halfway across when the tracker in his hand suddenly comes to life. The needle jumps, twitching erratically. A faint crackle comes from its small speaker. The signal is back, and it is close, very close. He stops, his heart pounding, standing on a rotting bridge suspended over a deadly drop. The voice comes through the tracker's speaker. It is clearer now than it ever was on the outpost radio, free of the heavy static, so close, it whispers. The sound is all around him, seeming to come from the air itself, from the rocks, from the water below. He is in the heart of it now. He forces himself to keep moving. His legs feel like lead. He reaches the other side of the gorge, his feet planting themselves on solid ground with a sense of profound relief. He scrambles up the bank, away from the bridge, and collapses behind a large boulder, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He looks at the tracker. The needle is pointing steadily south, deeper into the woods, towards the old mines. The signal is constant now, a low, steady hum beneath the static. He is on the right path. He is being led. He gets to his feet and continues his journey, the fear and determination hardening into a single, sharp point of focus. The forest on this side of the river is older, darker. The trees are bigger, their branches blocking out most of the sunlight. The ground is covered in a thick carpet of moss and ferns. The air is damp and heavy, and the silence is different here. It is not empty. It is watchful, ancient. He walks for another hour, the tracker's signal growing steadily stronger. The hum is louder now, a low, resonant frequency that he can feel in his teeth. He is getting very close. He slows his pace. his hand resting on the rifle slung over his shoulder. Every shadow seems to hold a threat. He finds it at the base of a steep, rocky hillside, half hidden by a curtain of thick ivy and fallen trees. It's the entrance to a mine, a dark, gaping hole in the earth. The wooden beams supporting the entrance have long since rotted away, leaving a jagged, unstable opening. A rusted, overturned ore cart lies on its side near the entrance, covered in moss. This is the place. He knows it with absolute certainty. The tracker's needle is pointing directly into the blackness of the mine shaft. The hum is a steady, low thrum coming from the depths. He stands before the entrance. The air that flows out is foul, smelling of wet rock, decay, and something else, something metallic and wrong. He shines his flashlight into the opening. The beam is swallowed by the darkness, revealing nothing but the first few feet of a steeply descending tunnel. The voice comes again, from the tracker, from the mine. Down here. It is not a plea anymore. It is a statement, an invitation. Alistair feels a primal fear, a deep-seated instinct to turn and run, to get as far away from this place as possible. But he can't. He has come too far. He has to know. He takes a deep breath, the foul air filling his lungs. He unslings his rifle. Holding it ready, he takes the first step into the mine, leaving the world of light and life behind him. The darkness closes in, absolute and suffocating. The only reality is the narrow beam of his flashlight and the steady, guiding hum of the tracker. The tunnel slopes downward at a steep angle. The floor is slick with moisture and loose gravel. He has to brace himself against the rough-hewn walls to keep from slipping. The air is thick and hard to breathe. The silence is broken only by the drip of water from the ceiling and the sound of his own ragged breathing. He follows the hum of the tracker deeper into the earth. The tunnel twists and turns, a labyrinth of black stone. He passes several side tunnels, dark mouths leading to unknown depths, but the tracker's needle never wavers. It points him straight ahead, deeper into the main shaft. After what feels like an eternity, the tunnel opens into a larger chamber. It must have been a central workspace. The ceiling is high, supported by massive wooden beams that are surprisingly intact. A set of rusted rails runs across the floor, disappearing into another tunnel on the far side. In the center of the chamber is the source of the signal. It's an old, military-style radio set, sitting on a makeshift table made of wooden crates. A thick cable runs from the radio to a series of large, corroded batteries. Another cable runs up the wall and disappears into a crack in the ceiling, the antenna. But it's not the radio that holds his attention. It's the person sitting in a broken chair beside it, or what's left of a person. It's a skeleton, dressed in the tattered remains of a park ranger's uniform, a uniform from at least 30 years ago. Its bony hands are resting on the radio's controls, as if it had just finished sending a message. Alistair stares, his flashlight beam trembling. This is the source, a dead ranger, a tragedy from long ago. The radio must be on some kind of automated loop, a final, desperate message recorded before the end. It's a sad, lonely story, a mystery solved. He feels a wave of relief. It's just a ghost story, nothing more. He takes a step closer, his light playing over the scene. He sees a tarnished metal name tag on the uniform's collar. The name is still legible, E. Vance. He sees the ranger's logbook on the table, open to the last page. The writing is weak and spidery. The last entry says, "The rock slide has me trapped. Radio is damaged. Can only broadcast, not receive. Battery won't last forever. I hope someone hears me." It all makes sense. A tragic accident, a voice calling out from the past, an electronic ghost. He reaches out to turn the radio off, to finally give this poor soul some peace. To end the lonely broadcast, his fingers are inches from the switch. Then the radio crackles, not with the faint, static-filled whisper, but with a voice that is loud and perfectly clear, a voice that fills the entire chamber. It is the same woman's voice, but it is strong now, and it is not coming from the radio speaker, it is coming from the darkness all around him. "You found him," the voice says. It is calm, conversational, and it is not a recording. "Thank you, Alistair. He's been so lonely down here. We've been so lonely." Alistair snatches his hand back as if burned. He spins around, his flashlight beam cutting widely through the darkness. The chamber is empty. There is no one there. But the voice was real. He heard it. He felt it. A cold presence that filled the space. A second person, a second ghost. "Who are you?" he chokes out, his voice a raw whisper. The flashlight beam lands back on the skeleton, on the name tag, E. Vance. Was it a man or a woman, Evelyn, or Edward? He had assumed it was a man, but the voice was a woman's. "I'm the one who called you," the voice says. It sounds closer now, right behind him. He feels a cold breath on his neck. He couldn't make his voice heard anymore. He's too weak, but I could borrow his signal. I could call for help. I knew you would come. You're a good man. He backs away slowly, stumbling over a loose rock. His rifle feels useless, a child's toy. What do you shoot at a voice in the dark? What do you fight when there is nothing there? The hum from the radio has stopped. The tracker in his hand is silent. "What do you want?" he asks, his back pressing against the cold, damp wall of the chamber. His mind is screaming, "This is not real. This is a hallucination, a trick of the foul air and his own fear." But the cold on his neck was real. "We just want to be found," the voice says. It is full of a profound and ancient sadness. "We want them to know what happened. We want to go home. But we can't leave this place. We are tied to it, tied to him." The voice seems to indicate the skeleton in the chair. Alistair understands, or thinks he does. There are two of them, the ranger, Vance, and someone else, a woman, a second spirit trapped in this dark, lonely place. She used the ranger's radio, his dying message, as a beacon, an amplifier for her own call. "I'll tell them," he says, his voice shaking. "I'll bring them back here. I'll get you out. I promise." It's a promise he has no idea how to keep. How do you recover a ghost? How do you lead a voice out of a mine? "Thank you," the voice whispers, and the cold presence seems to recede. The oppressive atmosphere in the chamber lessens. The air feels a little lighter, a little easier to breathe. He is still terrified, but the immediate threat seems to have passed. He takes one last look at the silent radio and the skeleton sitting before it, a silent monument to a forgotten tragedy. He turns and flees, scrambling back up the sloping tunnel. His only thought is to get back to the surface, back to the light, back to the world of the living. He emerges from the mine, blinking in the late afternoon sun. The light has never looked so beautiful, so real. He collapses on the ground, gasping the clean, cold air, his body shaking uncontrollably. He lies there for a long time, letting the reality of the sun and the sky wash over him. The journey back to the outpost is a blur. He moves on pure adrenaline, not stopping to rest. He crosses the swaying rope bridge without a second thought, his mind focused on a single goal, getting home. He reaches the outpost just as night is falling, the small cabin a beacon of safety in the encroaching darkness. He bursts inside and locks the door, leaning against it, his heart pounding. The outpost is silent, the radio is quiet. He goes to the long-range transmitter and presses the button. The familiar, angry buzz is gone, replaced by a clear, open channel. The line is working again. He calls the main station. His voice is hoarse, frantic. He reports the discovery, the mine, the body of Ranger Vance, missing for 32 years. He doesn't mention the voice. He doesn't mention his name on the radio. They would think he was crazy. They would pull him from his post. They tell him a recovery team will be sent out in the morning. They tell him to stay put, to get some rest. He hangs up the microphone and slumps into his chair. It's over. He did it. He kept his promise. But he knows it's not over. Not really. He sits in the quiet of the outpost, the stove burning brightly. The silence is complete. The radio is free of static, free of whispers. But the silence is heavier now, filled with the memory of the voice, the memory of the cold breath on his neck. The mystery of the signal is solved, but a new one has taken its place. Who was the woman in the mine? How did she die? Why was she tied to Ranger Vance? And the most terrifying question of all, now that she knows he can hear her, will she ever be truly silent again? He knows he will never have all the answers. Some things belong to the darkness, to the deep, quiet places of the earth. He has his life, he has the light of his lamp, but he knows that just outside the window, in the vast, silent forest, the echoes remain, waiting, and listening. He looks at the radio, its green power light glowing softly in the dark. He has a choice. He can ask for a transfer, leave this place and its ghosts behind, or he can stay, the lone guardian of a place where the veil between worlds is thin, a man who has heard the other side. He doesn't know what he will do. He only knows that the night is long, and he is no longer sure he is alone in the room. If you're still awake, that's okay. You don't have to get up yet. Maybe just lie there a little longer and listen to the rain. No more stories tonight, just soft, steady sound to keep you company. Let it wash over you. Let it carry you. Sleep is close now. Really close. I'll be here when you need me again. Good night.